Here's why people love to hate the G-Wagon, while enthusiasts like me, we swoon over them. My name's Adam, and I run this channel for the love of G. If you're someone who thinks these are the dumbest things in the world, this video is for you. If you think these things are the coolest vehicles in the world, this video is for you. What we have behind me are two of my G-Wagons. I'm a G-Wagon enthusiast, and that right there is a 2018 G550 limited edition, and this is a 2015 G550. You'll notice both have some modifications to them. This one's got a 2-inch lift in 33s. This one's got a 4-inch lift in 35s. But first, let's get into why people love to hate this G-Wagon. But before we do, the look of a G-Wagon is probably one of the sexiest things in the vehicle world. But people hate them because they have been marketed to be sold to the ultra wealthy and used as a status symbol that is out of reach of many. Well, I'm going to dispel all those mess because, you can actually get into one more affordably than you think. They're not as expensive to keep on the road, and they are stupid fun. But that's not what we're going to start with. We're going to start with the history of the G-Wagon and why people love to hate these things. Now, you might see this if you've watched G-Wagon videos online or search a little bit about the history of these gorgeous, beautiful pieces of engineering that, by the way, are still hand assembled today in Austria. They were commissioned by the Shah of Iran, who said, hey, I need a military vehicle. I want it buildable in different formats. What they call the station wagon, which is the 5-door. They wanted it in a truck and then essentially a van, which was like 2-door with a top. And these things have been and still are in use for militaries all across the world. And they're phenomenal vehicles. Now, in 1993, there was a little company called Europa International, and they said, hey, you know what? We're going to bring these to the United States because people love the way they look, the boxy design. It seems like an absolutely indestructible tank because it is. But in the world of business and in marketing, you have to sell things. And if you need to sell something that's really expensive, who are you going to sell it to? Well, you're going to sell it to rich people. So Europa International marketed this thing brilliantly to the ultra wealthy and started bringing them into the United States, even though at that point Mercedes says, nah, no one's going to buy these things. And guess what? They were killing it. They killed it so much that Mercedes in 2002 said, you know what? We're going to start bringing these things into the United States, but we need to make them different for the US market. And the US market kind of dominated the soon to be future vision and allure of the status symbol that is now the G-Wagon. And what they did is they said, and again, this one is modified, so lift tires is pretty much it. But what they did is they put side steps on it. They say, hey, this is a luxury vehicle. We gotta make it easy for people to get in and out, because you'll see when you see my other one with these side steps removed, it's very difficult to get in and out. Next, we're gonna just throw some leather on the doors, which, by the way, people look at this like, oh, it's luxury. It's okay. Like, it's not. There's exposed screws everywhere. It does look cool, don't get me wrong. I did another video, by the way, called G-Wagons Are Not Luxury. Take a look at that. Some people disagree with me, but hey, that's the beauty of opinions, right? So anyway, then they threw these gorgeous seats in here, and on this particular rig, this is a limited edition, two-tone stitching and an Alcantara headliner, this really cool flat-bottom steering wheel, and they threw in just a couple electronic gadgets to bring in some creature comforts. And the other thing, which you can see the spare back there, they did this, but it's taken off now, but they put on a chrome spare tire carrier. So they're like, oh, you know what? We're going to zazzle this thing up. And then Mercedes went after the Bentley market and said, you know what? We are going to market this against the likes of Bentley. And because it's hand assembled, because it's expensive, because we're imported in the US, and these things aren't cheap to make, we're going to just go after that market. So as a byproduct of their marketing efforts, the G-Wagon very quickly became a status symbol of wealth and power. And speaking of power, oh gosh, I'll get into that later, but V8s in these things, I don't care if you have the AMG, they rumble, they roar, they are fun to drive, they have more power than you need, and they're great. But this design right here screams power. I mean, it literally looks like a tank, like a military vehicle, because it is. So that's why people love to hate them, because they assimilate them with celebrities and rappers. It's so funny. I was on Spotify the other day with my wife, Sheena. We were coming back from four-wheeling. She's like, I wonder if there's a G-Wagon playlist on Spotify. And guess what? There is. And that is, again, one of the reasons people hate these things. They just think it's a flex. Now, let's get into a couple more reasons people love to hate the G-Wagon. For those, and we're going to hop into the 2015 now, so you can take a peek at this one while we chat. Some people who are car enthusiasts hate them. And one of the reasons for that is because they say they drive like garbage. And it's funny, that's all subjective, isn't it? See, this one's a big step to get in, especially since I removed the side steps. So this interior is different. This is a 2015. Again, same seats, which you'll find these from, oh gosh, I can't remember the exact year. I think it's about 2000, was it 11 or 12? Anyway, same seats, dash layout's virtually identical. This has the wood trim, round wheel, and no two-tone stitching, and no Alcantara headliner. But anywho, folks who are car enthusiasts will say that the G-Wagons, they don't handle that well. It's like a boat. The steering, it feels like you're driving an old dump truck or a tank. It does. Because these vehicles were designed and built in 1979, they're a solid axle construction, which is, there's very few vehicles that are made with a solid axle up front these days. It's usually heavy duty trucks, the Jeep Wrangler, the Dodge Power Wagon. It's pretty much it. So the vehicle in the chassis itself remained virtually unchanged from 1979 to 2018. So if you're going to be jumping into, and by the way, I bought both these vehicles used secondhand. I love doing that because someone else takes a depreciation hit, because I personally would not spend the money on a new one. That's me. I know people do, and hey, I don't judge. There's things I do with my money that other people wouldn't do, and I'm not here to judge anybody. I'm just sharing my view. Now, if you're going to cross shop a G-Wagon against, let's say, a BMW X6M or something, the X6M is going to walk away from the G-Wagon in terms of steering feel. And that's, again, why people think it's archaic and it's old and it was outdated, which is one of the reasons Mercedes redesigned it, in my opinion, in 2019 to go to the independent front suspension. They widened it. So I'm not that tall, but you can see, like, this center console is miniature. You know, there's not that much room across the vehicle. This is a super, super narrow vehicle. There's very, 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 very little leg room in back, and I will hop in there. I'm a short guy. I'm only 5'3", so you can even see, like, with my seating position, if I were to get in the back of this thing, it's tiny. So people with families, so you can just take a look at how small this is, and then I'll get back in here and you can take a look. People with families, like, this is way too small for a family vehicle. So these are the reasons that people love to hate the G-Wagon. The status of it all, the flexing, why people like buy this military vehicle and never actually use it. And because, like, by modern standards, they do not drive nearly as nice or as luxury feeling as a modern performance counterpart, whether it's Range Rover you're looking at, whether it's BMW, whether it's another Mercedes, whether it's Audi. So that brings us to the question, why do people love these things? Why do people like me swoon over them if I just shared all of those negatives? Well, let's get into the elements. Number one, the timeless design. These designs are just, they have aged so well. You look at some vehicles and you're like, that's ugly. You know, that was cool then, and then it's ugly now. And this Mercedes, they barely needed to touch anything. Like, over the years, we're talking minor adjustments. So timeless design is gorgeous. If you're, like, watch people really love Rolexes because Rolex has timeless designs. I'm not a huge Rolex fan myself. However, I respect the snot out of them. They make an incredible watch and they're timeless. Like, you can see one from 30 years ago to now, where other manufacturers don't have timeless designs. The next is, we, the enthusiasts, for the love of G, find a lot of joy in how these things handle because of being a solid axle truck, because it's like the vintage old feeling in something that has all of the power of something new, the creature comforts, although that's debatable since there's literally only one cup holder in front. And I shared this in the other one. It's this basket right here that folds in and out of the way. It's hard to see because I know we're black on black, but it's a little basket. There's no other cup holders in front. You got to kind of use these little cup holders back here and reach behind when you have something big. But the driving experience is truly unlike anything else on the market. If you drive a 2018 or older G-Wagon before the redesign, you will feel a vehicle that feels old, but fun. You can appreciate the handmade nature of the vehicle. Everything is tight. And when I say tight, listen to this. So we're gonna lock the doors here, okay? Listen up. Oof. Even hearing this lock, it sounds like a bank vault. When you open the door, when you close the door, everything is so solid. As I said, the driving experience is phenomenal. The V8s in these scream. The ability to have a V8 in any vehicle that is actually powerful is just awesome. And the coolest part is what they're capable of. These vehicles were, again, designed for military application, and they were designed to go anywhere. And traction is what makes these things so unique. So all G-Wagons are triple locked from the factory, and I'm going to give you just a quick high-level overview. I know some folks that are tuning in, like, I know what a locker is, and others say, what the hell's a locker? So let me tell you what a locker is. A locker is the ability to literally lock the axles together on both sides of the drivetrain. In normal driving applications, it's open because if you turn, let's say you take a left-hand turn and you go in a circle, your inside wheel is going to rotate less than the outside wheel because the outside wheel has more to travel. So if that were locked on the road, it would cause binding in the drive line, your tires would wear out, and it can actually risk slipping in inclement weather, which has happened to me. Bad news. So G-Wagons have the ability to lock the axle. So if one tire is, let's say, in a mud puddle or sitting on a sheet of ice or even up in the air because you're off-road, normal vehicles with an open differential will naturally send the power, will favor sending the power to the wheel that's in the air. So that one spins and you get stuck. But the G-Wagon, we have 3 lockers from the factory right here. Center lock, so it goes equal power distribution to the front and rear, because these are 4-wheel drive all-time. Then we've got a rear locker and then a front locker, which that means you can get through darn near anything. So if you want to take this thing off-road, even stock, it is, we gotta stop that alarm. That's not good. Fixed. Gotta love that. Neighbors probably love me. Good news is it's at least 9 o'clock. So anywho, these G-Wagons, if you want to off-road them, they don't need much. I'm going to break down that in another video, but getting off-road, like your really only weak points are these side steps. And then if you see back there, you see how the exhaust is side venting and it sticks out low? You can get this hung up on rocks. And if you actually watch the TFL off-road video, this build was featured on TFL off-road, by the way. They took a G-Wagon out that got hung up on that. So for those that love rugged reliability and durability, and these vehicles are known, by the way, in the older generations to go for hundreds of thousands of miles when well maintained and cared for, they will take care of you, and they are sick machines. So now I need to know, what camp are you in? Are you I absolutely love to hate the G-Wagon, or I am an enthusiast. I love these things. They are sexy. Well, I don't know. Drop a comment below. Thanks for joining me in this video. If you want to see that build tour, hop into it. I'll put a link at the end of this video, and I'll see you soon.